Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we're going to be talking about the actual end of the Xbox and PlayStation, even Switch, console wars. Now, as you guys have probably been hearing about the news and everything else, I kind of been seeing this floating around too as well for various articles and tweets, and kind of the general vibe is that we can maybe actually have the end of this so-called console war experience in the next upcoming few maybe years or even few months, depending on how this big transitional period is going to happen. Now, this has been probably a win for most folks out there that are mostly in the sane and the men brain vibe, because you don't usually want to go and fight over people on if like you're an Xbox fanboy or a PlayStation fanboy or even a Switch fanboy, PC fanboy, or whatever. At the end of the day, everyone should have their own preferences, and there isn't necessarily a right or wrong answer. Maybe you really like Halo, so you go play on PC or an Xbox. Maybe you really like the single-player experiences from like a Spider-Man and God of War, you go and play on PlayStation. Maybe you like everything, so you just buy everything. And then maybe you like have a family, you don't have as much spare time to play games, you have a little kid, you go buy a Switch. It's kind of like, you kind of have everyone their little niches when it comes to consoles. And at the end of the day, I think most people that are kind of high level up there always kind of thought that console wars in a serious sense is kind of a little bit on the lame side. I know I necessarily don't mind like talking about the merits and benefits and kind of like the good and bad for consoles, but for me, I've always one of those, as long as consoles as a whole are doing good, we're seeing brand new games, we're getting brand new games, I'm happy at the end of the day. Now, some people obviously are not like that, and some people will go make a random Twitter account called Xbox Fanboy 14, 17, 18, and go and complain about everything on Twitter nonstop for engagement, for views, for just entertainment, or on the fact that they enjoy a good argument, whatever it might be. Some people are like that. But with all of this, with the brand new Xbox's kind of proceedings on what they want to do in the future of like publishing games, spreading games out to other various consoles, and just kind of being like the big brother of the gaming sphere, it almost kind of seems like the end of the console wars might be coming. So I'm going to go talk about this, talk about the drama, talk about some articles that have also been floating around too as well when it comes to this in my own personal takes, and I want to hear your thoughts and comments on what you guys even think about like the Xbox and PlayStation fight nonstop and everything else in between. Hopefully it's kind of like me where you guys just like to enjoy the drama and future games and leaks and all that. I'd like to know in the comment section down below. So make sure you guys are subscribed as well. We have the notifications on Twitter and Twitch, and of course sign up for Weeble deposit any bit of money. You guys get a bunch of free stock, and let's go and dive on into the video itself. So as I've mentioned, right now Xbox is seemingly, based on like rumors and leaks and all the videos we've kind of talked about throughout this week, you guys have probably seen, if not, check them out, where Xbox is probably going to be bringing games like their new Indiana Jones game, maybe new the Hellblade games, old school games like Halo, Sea of Thieves, Hi-Fi Rush, Starfield, and all that probably to the PlayStation platforms if all the things and us reading between the lines actually are making sense. But that once again ruins everything for people on Reddit and on Twitter who are very unhappy, because this could lead towards the end of console wars, where Microsoft could now be setting this brand new precedent by bringing Xbox games to PlayStation. And this has kind of been like an interesting thing to note, because we've been seeing these rumors for the past few weeks, and that Microsoft might be bringing these games to competing consoles. We have new reports coming out too as well, and even other things like The Verge or even Forbes or IGN and all these other various websites have been reporting that basically Microsoft is exploring these possibilities to bring in all these different types of games to PlayStation and other stuff. There might be a little bit of a timed exclusive, there might be like a 1-year exclusive Game Pass deal, maybe like they get them for free on Game Pass, included with Game Pass, and then PlayStation has to pay the full money for it, so most people are incentivized to go to Game Pass. Whatever it might be, it kind of seems like at this day and age, the polarity between all the systems are now seemingly coming out here. This also has a lot of rumors all throughout January that all these games are coming to as well, and we've even had Phil Spencer go and highlight saying we're going to have a business event next week. I am still waiting for this business event, maybe even like a nice Valentine's Day surprise, and I just want to know about the future vision of Xbox as a whole. So they go and say this one here, saying were this to go through, this would be approximately on par with the idea of Hulu licensing its original program to Netflix or Disney+. There are many precedents for this sort of move in the console gaming space, because there's always been this PlayStation releases their console, Xbox releases theirs. They get their exclusive, then Xbox get their exclusives, and Nintendo has always been around, but they're kind of always kind of doing their own thing. Kind of think example, like they didn't have a Switch Pro launch in the same year as the PlayStation or Xbox. They're kind of letting themselves cook a little bit more separately, but it's all in this very similar vibe. As I mentioned, you have like PlayStation for single-player experiences is like what they're known for. You can still play Fortnite, Rocket League, whatever on it. You have Xbox, and I kind of feel like skews towards more of the competitive gamers, Gears of War, Halo, like that's kind of like their bread and butter back in the day. They still got other stuff. They're trying to go mix in some single player things, Hellblade, Fable, etc. But like, Forza, racing games, multiplayer, Halo, multiplayer, etc. It kind of seems always been Xbox's vibe. back in the day. Now also with Call of Duty 2 as well, Overwatch, etc. But at this point, it kind of seems like if everything's being spread all around, there isn't really a console war. Or the kind of funnier twist is going to be like PlayStation and Xbox versus Nintendo, where they're basically just going and try to go beat up all the people playing on their Nintendo Switches, playing Animal Crossing and like the random waifus and stuff. It's kind of crazy. But at this point with like Microsoft has always had this idea where we've seen it even in old school legal documents and Apple legal cases that PlayStation was always the one company that never wanted to go and do this crossplay. They had more players, they had more people on their consoles. So at the end of the day, they're like, hey, we don't want to have, say, like Rocket League or like Fortnite being cross-play because we have the user base. We have the people hanging out. Why do we want to have people mixing together? Like, there's no benefit for us. And then they were also maybe trying to go charge Xbox at a certain point, too, as well. This is all, like, verifiable on legal documentations because I remember making videos on this, too, as well, a while back in some of the gaming leaks. Well, Microsoft's always kind of seemed to be like, yeah, why not? Let's go make our games available for everyone. Although that's not as, like, black and white as one would imagine, mainly because something like, say, for Call of Duty, they'd be making money on every Call of Duty game sale and microtransaction sale, and of course Xbox technically is a smaller platform in terms of concurrent users. This has also been proven by proper legal documentation and statistics coming out. Now, I'm not trying to go be a part of the console wars, trying to say PlayStation is the bigger platform. It has more people, more active player bases and multiplayer, etc., especially in comparison to Xbox. Now, it's not a bad thing. But once again, that's a win for Xbox. More active players means more people are flooding the lobbies for their Xbox users, or as well, more people playing the game itself, more chance to go viral on YouTube, TikTok, easy marketing, microtransactions, everything in between, faster loading times, maybe even better for skill ratings too as well, so the games flow better. Like, it's more of a win for Xbox and Activision, and maybe for consumers too as well. PlayStation, though, is still kind of getting like probably a back-end deal, which is still maybe not the world's worst. Like, you'd rather have Call of Duty and pay up a lot more of a higher profit margin than lose it entirely. But at the same time, a lot of like long-term fans and people are expecting this. They don't really necessarily know what to expect when it comes to how this is going to work. Because if Xbox makes all of their games available for everyone else, that does mean that this might be the new standard. Or at least like the standard that fans are more used to, which might put a lot more pressure on places like PlayStation, where they want to have those PlayStation games on Xbox, and they want to maybe have these games on Nintendo. If the Switch has better specs, maybe even on PC too as well. And this also kind of goes and leads towards old school stuff such as like Sega. Back in the day, Sega ended production on the Dreamcast in 2000 in favor of becoming a third-party publisher. And that really kind of seems like my same thoughts. Or with the Activision Blizzard, Xbox is making a lot more money, so it's an even higher ratio of Microsoft because, well, Activision was a $70 million on top of Xbox too as well. So now we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars, which is bigger than a lot of the big companies out there in the entire planet. I could be wrong, but I remember seeing like Disney at like $150 billion. Now, obviously, it's like maybe kind of give or take, but it's basically like bigger than Disney, which is making movies, has an entire theme park. Like, it's a big kind of reference for how big some of these companies are in terms of profitability. And as well, the gaming sector exceeded Windows in revenue for the first time in company history too, even with kind of games like Starfield being mixed reactions and Redfall basically falling off the face of the planet. But at the same time, like, this could basically be the end of console wars. Because if PlayStation is getting pretty much every game out there, then who's going to complain? If Xbox is getting pretty much every game out there, if PlayStation does allow that, then who's going to complain? If PlayStation gets all the goodies and Xbox doesn't, then people are going to just buy a PlayStation. So at the end of the day, then at that point, the Xbox can be phased out and they can focus on Game Pass, streaming, and the growing PC market, and then let PlayStation just be the console. Because at a certain point, all PCs and consoles are pretty much the same thing regardless, and I do know a lot more people on PC and playing games on PC, at least in my age demographic, than, say, consoles. Now, I have consoles myself. If you're playing on console, nothing wrong with that. I'm kind of saying, like, over time, it will probably be phased out. Not think, like, the next 1 or 2 years. Think, like, 20 years or so. Because why not? If we have, like, the Wi-Fi, we have the streamability, we're going to be doing stuff on TVs, on, like, VR, on phones, on PCs, laptops, whatever, instead, because it's just easier and you get all in one regardless. But it does kind of seem like this might be the end. If Xbox becomes like a publisher, what is PlayStation going to compete with? Nintendo? No, they're not going to really compete at all. It's like way separate markets. Like, Nintendo's more so, not for everyone. I have a Switch. Like, I don't want to grind this up to everything, but like, that's more for the kids and the families, while the PlayStation's more of like, if they get every game, then guess what? They'll be churning stuff out. Basically being like a somewhat like secondary of Xbox, where Xbox makes the games, PlayStation helps sells them, Xbox focuses on PC too, and it kind of seems like the end of the console war is going to happen from that. because all these games are now okay. Like, it worked well for Sega somewhat. Like, Sega just started making games and was a publisher instead, and it worked out at the end of the day. So why could it not maybe potentially work out for Xbox? At the end of the day, PlayStation's getting on the games, so then what are people going to complain about? Like, the games are bad? That's good, but that doesn't mean that there's going to be a console war, because at that point, the consoles may not even exist. So at this point right now, it seems like, well, whatever, who cares? They say, even for like the CEO to kind of wind down my thoughts, he would love to get rid of the entire exclusives on consoles, but it's not for me to define, especially as a low-share player in the console market. The dominant player there, Sony, has defined market competition using exclusives. That's the world we live in. I have no love for that world, but at the same time, they're willing to say, hey, we're now the big head honcho. We now have Call of Duty and all this big money and revenue. Let's go and change up the game, which I think, at the end of the day, is actually a good thing if they do well for consumers. So give me your thoughts and comments down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream as well down below, and to sign up for We will get a bunch of free stock and money, and I appreciate y'all so much for watching here in the first place.